Number 2, who's got a strong revision? Go for it. You got it, Kayla.
Other sins are not just the people who sing Washington as in like that. What is that?
Did you say the people?
Yeah.
Read it one more time, logically.
Other sins are not just the people who sing Washington as in that.
Number 3. Number 3. Going once. Going twice. Go ahead, Brittany.
The speaker gives too much credit to Washington by comparing him to Jesus.
Anybody have anything different? Number 4. Volunteers going once? Volunteers going twice? Hey, give us your revision for number 4. You can make a running revision, you got it. During his, where's the main verb? What's the main verb of the sentence? Just depicted? What comes right before depicted? What's a stronger, more vivid way to say is depicted? And then, but what verb tense do we want to keep it in because we're talking about literary analysis? Very good. The narrator depicts. Yes, thank you for catching that. Because that is actually what? Active or passive?
Passive.
Passive. So, Brittany, what's the revision? You guys caught me on that. It shouldn't be the narrator depicts.
The object of the narrator.
There is another verb that is in the wrong tense in that sentence. Who caught that? There is a verb that is in the wrong tense. Austin, you got it? And there's one more too. What?
Sees African Americans.
Symbols. Reviewing from yesterday, we are used to identifying symbol or objects as symbols. You mentioned yesterday the green light from Gatsby. What's a symbol from Macbeth?
Dagger.
Say it again, Nigel. Chalice, the dagger. Who's got another one? What are other ways that authors create symbols? Not just objects, but also what else, Carissa? Phrases. Can you give an example?
1984, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Whatever
2 plus 2 does equal 3.
Well, I'm talking about the phrase.
2 plus 2 equals, yeah.
Okay.
Phrases. What else? Other ways we create symbols, Stacia?
Also for 1984, slavery is freedom.
That would be another example of a phrase. Can you give us another way in which an author creates a symbol? Another way, they do it through phrases, through objects, through, what about characters? That would be characterization. It also fits into the objects themselves, but how do you know what a character is called? How do you know what a character is called?
I mean, like protagonist and or dynamic.
The name?
The name. Names?
No, I don't get that. How's the name?
Winston Smith, symbolic of Winston Churchill. True blood. True blood. Bled so, true blood, bled so. We can unpack the deeper meaning of referring to a character by name. We've also got, and this is one we talked about yesterday, in Macbeth, we have the reoccurrence of them doing what?
Washing their hands.
Which is a, say it louder, Juana.
Action.
Setting.
There would be
Cause you know how
symbols
in
within the
book
setting.
The book reading now, the bricks in the college.
That would fall, the bricks, you're right, would fall into that category. It's a thing that you can see and touch. It's an object, right? Mm-hmm. All right, flip over your page.
What about idea?
Idea of yeah, individual words. So if you hear, for instance, we're going to look at one today. He's going to intentionally describe himself using a very intentional word. So keep that in the back of your mind. All right, today we're going to be looking at how Ellison draws allusions to folktales from African American history. In order to unpack the allusion, we have to familiarize ourselves with the story. We're going to, in small groups today, read 2 sample folktales that are of Brer Rabbit, the trickster character. Before we launch into that, I want you to turn and talk to your neighbor and think about what stories you were told as a child. These can be books that were read to you, books that you read. They don't have to come from books either. They can come from family folklore, family stories, or stories that were told as well as read, but that are somehow tied to your sense of who you wanted to become or grow into. So, for example, when I was a little girl, I loved the books Ramona Quimby because she was a little girl who always misheard and misunderstood what adults were saying and would come up with her own ideas as to what those phrases meant. She took things very, very literally. And that was something that as I was growing up, I really identified with because you could both take the literal meaning of a word as well as the meaning of what it sounds like or how you hear it and let your imagination run with that. So turning and talking to your partner, what is a story that impacted who you wanted to grow into as a child? All right, let's bring it back together. So, significance of African American folk tales in our culture and history. What you have in front of you is clearly a written record. It's written down. It's appeared in children's books. It's appeared on the internet, which is where I lifted these. But originally they were not written down. These folktales come from an oral tradition. And in fact, a lot of what we do have recorded now are modified because when they were written down, they were written by white writers traveling to the South and recording these tales. and those writers, one in particular, modified them slightly to what Ellison would call whitewash them, to make them more appealing or appeasing to a white audience, slightly modifying them from their original version. Since, that was in 1881, since historians have gone back through primary sources and strive to reinstate more original versions of the tales, but unfortunately what permeates a lot of our culture today are those whitewashed versions of these. You don't need to know this, but just so it piques your interest, the journalist who is most accredited for recording the Brer Rabbit stories that we're going to look at, and which Ellison alludes to, his name was Joel Chandler Harris. And these were recorded in the Uncle Remus stories in 1881. Brer Rabbit is a trickster character. Trickster characters in African American literature were exonerated for their sly, wily ways. They were so clever they could always get themselves out of trouble. However, they were not so clever that they managed to avoid the trouble in the first place. We're going to be looking at 2 of these today. If you look on the back, what's attached to your Do Now, you have one of 2 stories. You either have Brer Rabbit Falls Down the Well, or you have Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby. In a minute, you're going to be forming small groups, finding those who have the same story as you, and we're going to, honoring the oral tradition that these stories originate from, quickly read them aloud. What you're going to notice right away is that it is written in a vernacular that calls back to that oral tradition. For instance, if you look right at the first story, or first line of Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby, the author begins with the word well. Well connotes that a story is beginning because someone has asked for it. Mother, father, please tell me the story of. Okay, well, once upon a time. So once you move into your groups, you're going to nominate, and this is why I was really hoping Kevin was here today with his Catch a Little Rhyme performance, a narrator, a Brer Rabbit, and a Brer Fox. 3 people who are going to read aloud. This is what this is going to sound like. May I get 2 volunteers right now who are willing to model this? 2 volunteers. One to be, I'll be the narrator, one to be Brer Rabbit, one to be Brer Fox. Brittany, what would you like?
The rabbit.
Okay. Natanya, that leaves you as Brer Fox. Look at Brer Rabbit Falls Down the Well. Everyone's tracking on their page. Brer Rabbit Falls Down the Well. Oh, which one do you have?
Tar Baby.
You got one got Tar Baby?
Yes.
Okay. Fix that. Quick revision. Brer Rabbit and Tar Baby. If you don't have it, you're listening out loud. So if I'm the narrator, I'm going to read everything that's not in dialogue. Okay? So well now, that rascal Brer Fox hated Brer Rabbit on account of he was always cutting capers and bossing everyone around. So Brer Fox decided to capture and kill Brer Rabbit if it was the last thing he ever did. I'm going to see. Brer Fox hid himself in the bushes near the road, and he waited and waited for Brer Rabbit to come along. At last, he heard someone whistling and chuckling to himself, and he knew that Brer Rabbit was coming up over the hill. As he reached the top, Brer Rabbit spotted the cute little Tar Baby. Brer Rabbit was surprised. He stopped and stared at this strange creature. He had never seen anything like it before.
Good morning.
Said Brer Rabbit, doffing his hat.
Nice weather we're having.
You guys get the point? All right.
Not the Tar Baby. Oh, sorry.
In 30 seconds, you're going to move to your groups and decide who is going to be our narrator, who is going to be Brer Rabbit, and who is going to be Brer Fox. What you need to take with you is your handout and something to write with, and something to record notes on. Something to write with, something to record notes on. Go ahead and move now. 30 seconds.
Look at Tar Baby.
Oh, Lord.